So it's really nice to meet you and talk about Agatha Christie. First of all, it's 50 years
Yes.
since I read on Monday. So what do you know about Agatha? Do you like her? How did you meet her books?
Yeah,
stories?
so I'm incredibly happy to be talking to you about Agatha Christie, and yes, it's a big anniversary coming up, and we'll be celebrating it in the UK, and I know we'll be celebrating around the world. You cannot be British and not know Agatha Christie. Of course, she's the best-selling novelist of all time, but also Agatha Christie's work is incredibly influential in the UK. So I grew up with many of the books, with the adaptations. I've read, I've watched, and I've always enjoyed. And you can see even now, so new adaptations, new versions of her stories, people still reading them because she's just as good today as she's ever been.
And how did you explain her popularity still in these days, so long after her death?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think, of course, she's to me, she's very British and she's very much of her time in the 20th century. But actually, her stories are international and timeless. So if you pick up one of her books, you, of course, are immersed in a world that's very different from ours, which is a pleasure in itself. But it's very easy to access, and I think particularly the mysteries and the crimes and the human nature that's in there is universal. I think that's part of the reason why she's been so popular during her lifetime and since she died.
So, and do you have favorite book?
It's hard to pick just one. So I think, of course, some of the best known ones, the most often adapted, Death on the Nile, Murder on the Orient Express. But actually, I think if I had to choose one, maybe And Then There Were None.
Oh.
Which of course is not the original title, but the title
Yeah,
we use now. So we use that
we have
that
to
title.
check really long the original title.
Oh right.
But we have to, or the publisher house has to change it about 3-4 years ago too.
Yes, I think a few people have had to change it. But I think one of the things that I particularly love about that is it's the classic sort of, it's a closed room, but it's a closed island.
Yeah.
And you can see how influential that story is and lots of others. But the great thing is you don't have to choose just one.
And have you ever been to Torquay, to Greenway, or to the Burgh Island, which inspired her for that?
No.
For that story?
No. And this
know.
is one of the things that I know big Agatha Christie fans like to do. So yeah, I mean, you can see how popular she still is today, and people want to see these places for themselves.
Yeah, because as I mentioned, I attended the Agatha Christie festivals as a part of this festival in Turkey, which is held every September to her anniversary. The event, which is visiting Greenway or the Burgh Island, as the first one who are sold out.
Yes.
Because people want to see it. And the Burgh Island also was in one great adaptation, The Evil Under Sun.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, yes. And any person who likes Agatha has to be questioned. Poirot, Marple, or any other detective?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean,
but we love all.
No, exactly. So again, you don't have to choose just one, which is the great thing. Yeah. I think Poirot is probably the one that I've seen most, particularly on screen. So many of us grew up with the Suchet adaptation of Poirot and that beautiful Art Deco design. Of course, you've seen films more recently with Kenneth Branagh, and that character keeps. But actually, I think maybe Miss Marple is more interesting because she's more of a surprise for people. I think it's one of the great creations of Agatha Christie is people who are underestimated, and because she looks like a very nice old lady, she does get underestimated, and because of that, I think she's an even better character.
And have you any special experience with Agatha, with her books or something like that?
So I think, again, you can't grow up in the UK without repeatedly coming across Agatha Christie and everything that goes with it. And then, the books and the personal life. The personal life is very interesting as well. Okay. These days, there's a lot of Agatha Christie podcasts. So people that like to discuss, big fans of the books. One of the things that I think is interesting is hearing people talk about translating Agatha Christie. And I think it's an art to translate anything, but particularly in some of the Agatha Christie stories, where language is sometimes part of the mystery or the clue. And I'm always interested in that. And I don't know how it is translated into Czech, but it's part of the process.
I translated some books of her, so I know how difficult it is. But it changes because I translated one of the first books and one of the latest books, and it's really different language. And when you mentioned translation, do you dare read Agatha in Czech?
I haven't tried yet. I might try one of the short stories, maybe some of the competition entries as well, something in Czech. But I think it might actually be a nice way, because I know the books pretty well in English. It's a nice way to practice also.
So when you met some friends or some people, it happens that the Agatha topic is on?
Always. I mean, it's always there. It's part of our culture. So the fact that there's a new adaptation coming out next week of Seven Dials, which is not one of the ones that I've read, actually, so I don't know it. So I'm looking forward to watching it. And watching it without knowing what the plot is, I think, is a great pleasure. So these kind of moments are still very important to people.
So we will talk about it next week, because it's really interesting to hear the people, what they are saying and seeing in Agatha, because everybody is seeing something else in her book and in her stories.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned her personal life. What do you know about her personal life?
So I know that she was probably not the favourite even in her family to be a writer. I think she had an older sister who was an even more sort of accomplished writer and published earlier than her. So maybe that was a motivation for her in some ways, that she wanted to prove them wrong, especially I think when her sister said she wouldn't be able to do it. Of course, there's a great kind of mystery at the centre of Agatha Christie's life as well, about the disappearance and the fact that there was a huge search for her, and reappearing in this spa sort of 200 miles away from where she was last seen. But that's a mystery that has remained kind of unsolved. So people like to fill in the gaps on that. But she's been a part of British life all the way up to her death 50 years ago.
Have you heard that was sometimes about starting of the millennium, that the publish house made the research and the people told that they don't want to be saw with the book of Agatha Christie? That's a shame. Have you met this experience or this opinion?
I think there's, perhaps in the past, and I think you still have occasionally that idea that crime books are not to be publicly enjoyed. But actually, I think these days everyone is happy to have, particularly Agatha Christie, the classics that she wrote. I think there is something about the enduring legacy that you feel in many other writers. I don't think any crime writer today can escape her influence, whether you stick very close to those kind of closed room mysteries, or whether you have a completely different approach. You have that influence is very present. And some of our best writers have of course picked up the pen and continued Agatha Christie's characters. And I'm a big fan of Sophie Hannah. I was very pleased to read some of her Poirot books as well. She's a great writer in her own right, but she's also a big fan of Agatha Christie, and you can feel that in her work as well.
There's also the new novel with Miss Marple prepared with Lucy Foley. Do you know Lucy Foley? Or do you know any other British crime writers? Do you read?
Yeah, absolutely. So P.D. James, Val McDermid. Actually, many of our best crime writers are women, of course, and that's a tradition that goes back to Agatha Christie as well.
And talking about Agatha's legacy and crime writing, have you heard about the writing training of BBC, that they were creating like Agatha Christie, and they use the AI to create the character like Agatha, and using her stories and her notebooks and so on to teach people how to write about Agatha? What do you know about it?
Well, I know there's even some interviews that she gave before when she talked about writing and the process that she brought to it. And if you want to write crime books, of course you're going to be influenced and look to her examples. So I'm not surprised that she's still having an influence even for writers today.
Yeah, and have you heard about the BBC AI training?
No, I haven't seen that.
I know that the really big Christie fan and researcher Mark Aldridge, who created some books about her, and other helped with that, but some fan didn't like this, that it's not like Agatha, but
Yeah, of course. I mean, AI is only ever going to be an imitation of the real thing, but I think you can feel that influence through lots of different books that are still being written today. And I'm delighted that Miss Marple is also continuing. Of course, we've seen many TV and film adaptations of her work, and we've seen those characters continue to live on with other writers as well.
You are living in Czech Republic for a long time, I think I could see. Do you see that the British people and Czech people are something similar, something together, because Czech Agatha Christie Society is the only one existing on the world, and many fans, when I come to Turkey, many fans, okay, that's great. I'm proud that you live in the country with her legacy and with adoring Agatha so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And in many ways, I'm not surprised because I think Brits and Czechs are quite similar. I think we have a huge common history. You think about the relationship during the Second World War, you think about the history of our royal family and its connections with this country. You think about the relationship between President Havel and the Rolling Stones, or Tom Stoppard, or lots of other bits of this common history that we have. But I think there is also something about the personality of Czechs and Brits, that we understand each other. We have the same kind of quite dark sense of humor as well. And I think an interest in crime is one of the things that links us, for sure.
Have you read any Czech authors?
I have, yes.
What do you like?
So, I mean, if I had to, so of course, Hrabal, Švejk, many of the classics, Kundera as well, Kafka. I think if I had to choose, it's still Karel Čapek for me.
Yeah.
And actually is a writer who was writing at the same time as Agatha Christie. Interestingly for me, I mean, some of his best work is probably science fiction, so genre writing as well, but incredibly relevant today. And I think if ever I'm asked to recommend a book from Czech literature, I usually say Válka Smloky, so War with the Newts, because I feel like it's the most relevant today.
Okay, and the last questions, are you gonna spend some time on her anniversary with her books, or any small personal?
Yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to the Seven Dials. That's something we'll be watching as a family. I think it's always a good excuse to get the books out and have another look. The temptation is always to reread one that you've read before, because it's like kind of wrapping up in a warm blanket. It's a very comfortable feeling, but actually maybe it's a good time to look for some of the ones that I haven't read, and to have that new experience. So I think that's good. And of course, you do feel this today. You look at some of the films that have been popular recently. So the Knives Out crime mysteries, which is incredibly similar to the spirit of Agatha Christie as well. And the filmmaker has said that he's very inspired by Agatha Christie for those as well. So I think it's a good time to celebrate her legacy, not just through her own work, but also that influence through others as well.